Now, the sixth key for success is called continuous learning. I told you before that when I came across continuous learning, almost like tripping over something in the dark, I couldn't believe it. What it said was that you can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. There's no limitations on what you can learn. You have more potential than you could use in 100 lifetimes, that you can learn anything. This, to me, was the greatest of all discoveries, is there are no limits on the kind of life you can have, because you can learn anything you need to learn as long as you continuously learn new things. And what's the magic formula? 10 hours a week. Read a little bit each day in your field. Listen to audio programs when you travel around. Go to seminars and take notes, as I said, and write down actions that you can take immediately afterwards. And just dedicate your life to becoming a student for the rest of your life. Every day you should be learning something new. Learning should be as much a part of your life as eating and sleeping and breathing. And if you'll do that, you start to go up the ladder of success faster and faster. You feel happier and happier. People respect you and look up to you. You feel we have more energy, and your self-esteem goes up and your self-image improves. And you get it all from continuous learning, which is why these people go from the bottom to the top. And they're very happy people. They're very highly respected, and they feel wonderful about themselves, because growing and becoming better in your field is one of the most happiest and wonderful things you can do.
Stephen Covey says that your current knowledge base has a half-life of 2 years, which means that half of everything you know will be irrelevant within 2 years. And 2 years from now, half more. So if you're not continually learning and upgrading your knowledge and skills, you're not staying in the same place. As Pat Riley says, the basketball coach says, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're not constantly learning, you're actually falling behind. So here are the 3 keys to continuous learning. Number 1 is read in your field 30 to 60 minutes each day. In other words, turn off the television, turn off the radio, put aside the newspaper, and just read in your field. The very best places to read, by the way, are books. Read books, the best-selling books written by the most successful people in your field, because books contain a wealth of riches that can enable you to function at a far higher level, to get much better results than you could before. So read 30 to 60 minutes a day. I've had people tell me, countless people over the years, that reading an hour a day has doubled and tripled their income within a year. The second thing you do is take every course that you possibly can. The courses and seminars that are available to you in your field that are given by professionals that are courses that have been developed over years and years and years. They have been tested and tested and tested. The person who is talking to you for several hours has spent thousands of hours learning their subject. They have dry tested this or done test runs with thousands of other people. When you take a course, you can learn enough information in 1 or 2 days, more than you could learn in 2 or 3 years, or maybe even a lifetime, all distilled and put together. People say, I can't afford a course. You cannot afford not to buy books. You can't afford not to go to courses. Some years ago, I had a dentist, and he was a very successful dentist. I was recommended to me by a friend. And this dentist retired at the age of 53. And just before he retired, he sold his practice for about $2 million. Just before he retired, he told me why. He said about 8 years before, he had attended a dental congress in Hong Kong. This is from California. He'd flown all the way to Hong Kong to attend this international dental congress because there were specialists giving private lectures, sort of plenary sessions on the side. And he attended this session, and it was on a particular technique of cosmetic surgery that this dentist had developed that no one else knew, where you could basically straighten out a person's entire front jaw so they look beautiful at a very low cost, at a very high level of effectiveness. He came back and he began implementing this in his practice. People began flying from 500 to 1,000 miles away. Every dentist sent their families, members, and themselves to this dentist. He was able to charge whatever he wanted to charge. He said 8 years later, he retired as a self-made millionaire at the age of 53 to enjoy his money for the rest of his life from what he learned from one session at one convention at one course. Now, that is a true story, and maybe it's an exception, but you can never tell where the information is going to come from. The third way that you can upgrade your skills is listen to audio programs in your car. The average driver drives 500 to 1,000 hours a year, 25 to 50,000 miles. If you listen to audio programs in your car, according to the University of Southern California, you will get the equivalent of almost full-time university attendance just listening to learning material as you drive around. It can totally and profoundly change your life. Very, very important. Here's an interesting point. The more you commit yourself to becoming the best person you can be, the more you like yourself and respect yourself, the more energy you have, the bigger goals you set for yourself, the more you persist. When you invest in yourself and you read and learn and upgrade your skills, you're telling yourself, wow, I am a person with a great future, and it's up to me to maximize my potential. And your self-esteem goes up, your self-respect goes up, your sense of personal pride goes up, and you started to get promoted more and paid more in every part of your life. Well, the next is to develop a workaholic mentality. In our society today, you hear all these people talking about take it easy, have balance in your life, relax, lean back, have fun at work, happy, get along with your coworkers. This is loser talk. Loser, loser, loser. Now, there's a time in your life when you can back off, all right? You can take it easy. But that's when you've made it, not before you've made it. Because before you've made it, you're in a competition with hundreds of thousands of millions of other people, like at the Olympics, who also want to make it. And in order for you to win, you are going to have to work harder and work better and work smarter than they do. So the rule is to develop a workaholic mentality. What does this mean? It means that you start a little earlier, you work a little harder, and you stay a little later. Use what I call the 40-plus formula. The 40-plus formula says that working 40 hours a week gets you survival, and that's all. You work 40 hours a week, you survive. You make no progress. You don't go ahead. You just barely hang on. Every hour that you invest in your work or yourself over 40 is an investment in your future. So you can tell what your future is going to be with unerring accuracy by looking at how many hours over 40 you put in. Now, how many hours does the average self-made millionaire in America work until he passes the $1 million mark? 59. Some of them work 70, 80, 90. The average is 59 hours. How much does the average top executive work? 59 hours. So that's rule number one, is the hours you put in over 40. If people say, well, my office is locked and I can't get in more than 40 hours a week, then good. Then spend the rest of the time investing in yourself, getting better at your work when you do it. Now, here's my second principle, and this principle changes your life. It is this, is work all the time you work. When you work, work, don't play. Fully 50% of working time today is wasted. And it's wasted in idle conversation, personal business, family phone calls, surfing the internet, reading the newspaper, drinking coffee, long lunchtimes, coming in late and leaving early. And then the other 50%, you're scrambling because now you're behind because you wasted so much time fooling around. Now you start to work and you don't work on high priority tasks. You try to get rid of all the little stuff. So what happens is the big tasks begin to build up like an avalanche overhang, and they cause enormous stress. And you go home at night and you're thinking about this job, I've got to get this project finished, but I can't discipline myself to stop talking to my coworkers. Every time one of them comes in, I like automatic, like a conditioned response, it's blah, blah time. Chatter, 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 chatter. No, what you have to do is work all the time you work. If someone comes in and says, hey, you've got a minute to talk, you say, yes, but not now. Why don't we talk after work? Meanwhile, I've got to get back to work. I tell you what, why don't you go down the hall and ruin his career? But don't stand here and ruin mine. It's really important. There's a great story of a little girl goes to her mother and says, Mommy, why is it Daddy always brings his briefcase home and he works in the evenings and he works on the weekends and he doesn't spend any time with the family? And she said, well, honey, you have to understand, Daddy can't get all his work done at work, so he has to bring it home. She said, why don't they put him in a slower class? Next key is to get around the right people. This is a key for becoming a self-made millionaire, is get around the right people. Dr. David McClellan at Harvard did studies for 25 years looking into why it is that some people succeeded greatly in life. What he found was as much as 99% of your success in life is going to be determined by what he called your reference group. Your reference group are the people with whom you habitually associate. They're the people that you associate with at work, the people you associate with home, your church, your political party, your social circle. What he found in working with people is that changing a person's reference group totally transformed the way they think. Why? It's because we are like chameleons and we absorb through the skin the attitudes, the opinions, the behaviors, the style of dress, the style of speech of the people with whom we associate most of the time. If you start to associate with winners most of the time, you find that they have a totally different worldview. They're positive, they're upbeat, they're focused, they're learning, they're growing, they're positive of what they're doing, and you start to become like that. We know that our relationships determine 85% of our happiness or unhappiness in life. In other words, if you have bad relationships, personal relationships, they will drag you down worse than a sea anchor. If you work for a bad boss, it'll destroy all your joy in work. If you have one negative coworker, they found that one negative person in an office can cast a blackness over the whole office because of his or her negativity. And so the most important thing you do is you choose your relationships with care and only associate with people that you like and respect and enjoy being around. Next is be prepared to climb from peak to peak. One of the keys to becoming a self-made millionaire is to realize that life is never one continuous train. It's always up and down. So it goes up. Like if you climb a mountain peak, you have to go down into the valley before you climb the next peak. So all of life is cycles and trends. All of life is cycles and trends. And there's up cycles and there's down cycles and there's up trends and there's down trends. The question is, what is the general direction of your trends? We say this, is that life is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Successful people focus on the 2 steps forward and then they protect themselves on the downside. They build up cash reserves. They put in stop loss orders on their stock market. They very carefully watch what they're doing. So they try to maintain that 2 steps up and then make sure that the 1 step back is not so far. And then they want to make sure that this curve is generally upward so that each time there's a step back, they're still further ahead than they were before. The next one, which is to develop resilience and bounce back. Developing resilience and bouncing back is one of the key qualities of self-made millionaires because, as I said right at the beginning, most things won't work. This is a very interesting point, is that you're going to be knocked down over and over again. And what we know, as my friend Charlie Jones says, is you have to bounce, don't break. And when things go wrong, bounce. And so what I learned many years ago was this interesting technique of what is called mental rehearsal. And mental rehearsal says that you mentally prepare for the inevitable downturns before they occur. So you say, all right, in the course of life, things are going to go wrong, but when they do, I'm not going to become upset. I'm not going to get mad or angry or anything else. I am just going to take it and learn from it and pick myself up and keep going. Sometimes I ask this question, does anybody here have any problems? And everybody says, yes, everybody's got problems. Well, here's the rule, is all of life is a continuous series of problems. They never end. The problems just keep on coming, like the waves of the ocean. The only break in this unbroken series of problems will be the occasional crisis. So life will be problem, 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 crisis. Problem, 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 crisis. It's like the waves of the ocean, 6 problems and a crisis, 6 problems and a crisis. Which means that everybody here is either in a crisis right now, has just gotten out of a crisis, or is just about to have a crisis.
Now, the 7th key to success is courage. And courage is really the most important thing of all. Every study of leaders for more than 3,000 years shows that leaders have courage. Now, they did a study recently of self-made billionaires. These are people who started off with 0, and in one lifetime, they have earned more than $1 billion. When I began studying self-made millionaires in 1980, there were about 1 million self-made millionaires and only 5 or 6 billionaires. Today, there's 10 million millionaires, and there's almost 2,000 billionaires in the world. Of the 2,000, 2/3 started with nothing. So they interviewed them earlier this year, and they said, what do you think is most responsible for your earning so much money? Many of them were immigrants. Many of them came from poor families. Many of them did not go to university, but they became billionaires. And it was not all in high tech. It was in furniture and fast food and retailing and automobiles, and it was in oil and gas and timber and a whole bunch of different fields. So they asked them why, and they found that there's three answers. The first answer was hard work and self-discipline. They said, I was willing to work harder than anybody else. I had the discipline to get up in the morning earlier. Self-made millionaires, by the way, start their workday before 6 a.m. They arise 3 hours before their first appointment. And usually they exercise, and then they plan their day completely, and then they learn something. And by the time the average person is waking up, they're already busy and active. Self-made millionaires and billionaires sleep an average of 8.5 hours per night. Very interesting recent discovery this year. They found the highest paid people sleep more than the lowest paid people. The self-made millionaires and billionaires, according to my studies, watch about 1 hour of television per day. And when they are not using their cell phone or their computer, turn it off. They leave it off and they'll turn it on again several hours later. Poor people have the television or the cell phone or the computer on all the time. Last thing they do at night is they check their computer or their cell phone. First thing they do in the morning is they check their computer or their cell phone and turn the television back on. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Does this happen here in Russia? No. I can't believe it. So, the fact is that if you want to become wealthy, do what wealthy people do. The second quality of self-made billionaires is continuous learning. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his time studying every day, and he's one of the richest people in the history of the world because he keeps learning new things. The third quality of self-made billionaires, they said, is a willingness to take risks. It's a willingness to move out of your comfort zone. It's a willingness to try something new and different with no guarantees of success. In fact, I was in St. Petersburg talking with 3 business owners, and they were changing their whole business because of the current economic situation, and they were very worried because their first attempt wasn't working. And I said, it's okay. It takes 4 attempts to change your business model before you find one that works. Sometimes it takes 10 attempts. So therefore, don't ever be afraid to try something and fail, because the only way that we learn to succeed is by failing over and over again. So try, fail, and learn, then try again. Try, fail, learn, then try again. And if you'll do that, eventually you'll find the way that works. But you have to have the courage to take action with no guarantees of success. You have to have the courage to take action on your goals, and the action to develop your skills, and the action to deal with your problems. You have to have the courage to do things without guarantees. That's the hallmark of the most successful leaders and most successful people financially throughout history.
Everything you do is an attempt to achieve your own happiness, or even more happiness than you already have. In 1895, Sigmund Freud described this as the pleasure principle. This idea subsequently became the basis of modern psychology. He said that every human action is an attempt to avoid pain and seek pleasure. You are continually attempting to move from discomfort to comfort. You continually seek ways to be better off rather than worse off. You continually strive to be happy. Here's the challenge. No one can decide for anyone else what will make him or her happy. Only you can decide for yourself. Only you can select the particular mixture and combination of ingredients that gives you pleasure at a particular time. You are unique, special, and different in all the history of the world. There never has been and never will be anyone exactly like you. There will never be anyone with your particular combination of tastes, desires, feelings, habits, experiences, likes, dislikes, hopes, and fears. What makes you the happiest will be different from that of any other person you ever meet. Because you are such a complex person with so many dimensions to your personality, the exact combination of ingredients that will make you happy changes continually, from day to day, hour to hour, and even from minute to minute. Happiness is a moving target. It is never fixed or final, and only you can decide, because only you can feel inside when you are truly happy. The basic premise of communism in the 20th century, which led to the deaths of more than 100 million people in wars, revolutions, executions, and famines, was that human nature could be changed. Those who espoused communism, and especially communist leaders, were convinced that they could decide for others the precise ingredients of happiness that was best for the people they ruled. They acted on the premise that human nature was malleable, like soft clay, and that man could be shaped, forcefully if necessary, into a new type of person. This person would be transformed into their idea of what they thought people should be. without their normal and natural human wants, needs, desires, fears, and compulsions. Communism has now almost completely disappeared, totally discredited by those forced to live under it. Unfortunately, there are still people in Western society with this totalitarian temptation, primarily academics and politicians who feel that they are somehow capable of deciding for others what is best for them. They feel that most people are not capable of choosing the correct combination of ingredients that will make them happy. They simultaneously conclude that they, being superior somehow in intelligence and vision, are capable of making these decisions for the masses. Every attempt to move in this direction is ultimately destined for failure because you cannot change human nature. Now, everything that you do is aimed at achieving your own personal happiness. Even if, in the process of achieving your own happiness, you sacrifice greatly for others, your family or your fellow man, everything you do is still inherently selfish. Only you can decide for yourself. No one else can think for you, feel for you, taste for you, experience for you, or decide for you. Everything you do is selfish in that you do it from the perspective of what gives you pleasure or pain, comfort or discomfort, satisfaction or dissatisfaction. You are selfish in that you are a unique, self-centered human being, capable of making your own decisions and choices. No one can decide for you what is best for you except yourself. The quality of selfishness is neither good nor bad. It is simply a fact of human nature. Rational selfishness is what you practice when you engage in behaviors that are good for you and not harmful to anyone else. If your selfishness drives you to engage in socially productive and helpful activities so that you can get more of the things that make you happy, then your selfishness is a positive benefit to society. On the other hand, if your selfishness is short-sighted and indifferent to the well-being of others, you may engage in behaviors that give you pleasure or satisfaction in the short term, but which lead to even greater unhappiness and dissatisfaction in the long term, both for yourself and for others. But selfishness itself is neither positive nor negative. It is only the way that you express your selfishness that makes it either good or bad. The sixth quality of human nature has to do with the fact that every person has an ego. The word ego from the Latin means I am. Your self-concept, the way you think and feel about yourself, is the master program of your subconscious computer. Everything you do on the outside is guided and determined by the way you think and feel about yourself on the inside. The most important part of your self-concept is your self-esteem. This is defined as how much you like yourself. Almost everything you do is aimed at either increasing your self-esteem or protecting it from being diminished by other people and circumstances. Human beings strive towards self-esteem, self-respect, and personal happiness all their lives. The second part of your self-concept is your self-image. This is made up of three elements: the way you see yourself, the way that you think others see you, and the way that you would like to be seen by others. Almost everything you do in your interactions with other people is guided by your self-image. You constantly strive to improve your self-image, and especially the way that others see you in everything you do that involves other people. Your feelings of self-esteem and self-worth are closely linked to how well your self-image is supported by the way that others treat you. The greater the level of respect and esteem that you receive from others, the better you feel about yourself, the more you like yourself, and the happier you are. What this means is that you are vain. You are concerned about the way you look and appear to others. You are concerned about what people say and think about you. You're concerned about earning and keeping the esteem and respect of the important people in your world. It's been said that everything you do is to earn the respect of people who you respect, or at least not to lose their respect. Vanity is neither good nor bad. It is simply a fact of life. It is a normal and natural part of your human nature. It is the driving force behind all of the industries that produce clothing, fashion, cosmetics, jewelry, perfume, and every other factor that contributes to the way you appear on the outside or how others think about you. The vanity drives people to achieve material success so that they can drive bigger cars, live in better homes, go to nicer restaurants, and generally be respected and esteemed more by people in their social circle and community. A positive element of vanity is when you set high standards for yourself, for your manners and behavior, for your dress and appearance, for your communications and interactions with others. The most respected people in any social grouping are those people who are considerate and sensitive to the wants, needs, and opinions of others. They engage in positive, productive behaviors. In the society pages of any newspaper, you will see photographs of people in evening dress attending charity functions in support of good causes in the community. People pay enormous amounts of money and donate significant amounts of time in order to be seen in the company of other highly respected people in their social circles. In this sense, vanity is a good thing. It leads to a higher quality of life throughout society. Well, there's a dark side to vanity as well. If a person's vanity and desire for ego satisfaction causes him to behave in negative or harmful ways to himself and others, then vanity becomes a negative quality. Many people manifest their natural vanity in hurtful behaviors, such as arrogance, conceit, rudeness, disrespect, and impatience with others.
Now, my time is almost up, so I want to leave you with 3 final points. No matter what has happened in the past, the future is unlimited. It's only limited by your imagination. And here's my 3 predictions for you and for Russia. Number 1 is you are going to make more money in the future than you have ever made in your life before. The financial possibilities for you in the future are unlimited. Number 2 is you're going to have greater happiness and success in the future than you have ever had in your life today. And number 3, your greatest achievements in life lie in the future. And the future is limited only by your own imagination, so there is no limit to what you can be and do in the future.